Hey, Catholic Divas. Welcome back to the podcast. We have a very special guest today. Her name is Michele Simpson, and she walks with women whose spouses have addiction. So come on into the podcast and let's hear Michelle's journey and how she can serve you as well. Hey, this is Mama Jane.
And this is Mama Vicky. Welcome to the Cycles and Sanctity podcast.
I'm a Billings ovulation method instructor and a certified Catholic mindset coach.
And I'm a labor and delivery nurse, an IBCLC, and a La Leche League leader.
We're here to share with you the beauty and the pain of your cycles.
Have you considered honoring your cycle throughout the journey of your womanhood?
Have you ever considered your cycle as a tool towards your holiness?
Well, sisters, it is. We're excited to walk this journey with you.
So go grab your favorite journal and pen and your hot beverage, and let's do this. Welcome back, Catholic Divas, to the Cycles and Sanctity podcast. We are so excited. We have another great interview for you. Just one thing I have to share about my own self is that I am not always the subject matter expert, but what I am gifted is to find the subject matter expert, which is why I love to do the interviews, just to share the wealth of knowledge that we have in our Catholic world. And so we have a very special guest, Michele Simpson. She is here. She and I have known each other, a couple of years now, right?
Yeah.
We walk together in our Catholic coaching. We have coached one another. She's a fantastic coach. She is so wise. But I'm going to let you introduce yourself, Michele. Tell us a little bit about you and your coaching.
So I have been married to my husband for 30 years. We have 8 beautiful children, most of them all grown up now. And he has struggled with addiction since I met him. So it's been 30 years of him and I
Walking that walk.
walking that walk. Correct. Yes. So I put a lot of thought into it, or a lot of prayer time into it, and decided that I was going to start coaching Catholic wives that are married to husbands that have addiction problems. Whether they're clean or not, it's still a hard walk, especially if they're not working on themselves. And so I wanted to support them because, as you said earlier, it's a lonely walk. It can feel very lonely. And there's not a lot of people you can share that kind of stuff with.
You're right.
Yeah. And one of the things you shared with me in our relationship is the fact that coaching was the thing.
Yes, coaching was a thing that really helped me start to, I'd gone to Al-Anon in the past, on and off, on and off.
Yeah.
And there are things that I, of course, took away from it, but implementing it, understanding how to implement it, and understanding how much of it was in my own mind. Not that there isn't actual things out there, but how I'm reacting to it or how I'm interpreting it in my own mind was a big part of it.
Yeah.
And there were I remember one of the biggest aha moments was before I even started into certification, is that we were in a coaching community and talking, and one of the women said, "You're a beloved daughter of God." I mean, and I've heard those words before many, many times, but that one time, all of a sudden, it just hit me, and I believed it. And so that was, I don't know why I just shared that, but that was something that started my healing process.
Well, that's beautiful, because so many times in an addiction, it's a walk where you're trying to cover up a lot. You're trying to save face. You're trying to, I definitely have learned that too, because my husband struggles with addiction, and it's a hard concept to let them experience what their choices lead to, and also we have a big part in how we react. And you're right, it's the thoughts that we have, and it's very easy to catastrophize. We're very big on catastrophizing.
Yep.
And then it's very easy to blame the addict, and everything that's ever gone wrong ever in all of eternity, it can be their fault.
Right.
Which is not true. And
that doesn't help them.
No, that's the other thing that's very true. I did not realize that the addict, how bad they feel about themselves. I mean, I do now, but in the beginning, I was just like, well, you're selfish, you're bad, because that's what society tells us, right? In society, all things lead to addiction, and then we tell you you're bad when you do it. It's just, it's a lot. But I would agree, Michele. I've gone to Al-Anon, and they've been monumental. They were the first step in my recovery. But coaching was just that extra layer I needed. And not only did the first time when I heard, "You're a beloved daughter of God, he wants good for you," but my husband is also a beloved son.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he is loved. God loves him. And I know my husband.
Yep, sorry, didn't mean to get too this is okay. This is
Mm-hmm.
okay. These are hard
It's
subjects, and part of it is one of the things that we want in this podcast is that exactly, women are beloved daughters, and they're women because of their cycles, right? But our men are beloved sons,
Sons.
yeah.
Right.
and we are all hurting. We just hurt in different ways, and
Different
if we
ways.
can the body of Christ. I've been listening to Catechism a Year with Father Mike Schmitz.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on the part that talk about the church, and it's so true that when one part of the church is hurting, the rest of us are hurting as well.
Mm-hmm.
And when one of the parts of the church are doing good, we all get to celebrate in that and share in that goodness and that joy. And that's why we turn to the saints, right? But it's
Mm-hmm.
why when I coach, I attract many infertile couples. And the only thing I tell them is, I'm going to be Simon of Cyrene. That's the only thing I can do is I'm going to help you carry this cross. We might fall down. I don't know how far. I don't know where the crucifix is going to end. I can't promise you a baby because only God is going to bring that sperm and
Mm-hmm.
that egg together, but I'm going to be there. And that's what I do. And sometimes that's enough.
Mhm.
The knowing that there is another Simon, there's a Simon of Cyrene to carry that cross.
Real
Sounds
quick,
like
while you have it back together, I guess what I was trying to say is that knowing that my husband is a beloved son of God allowed me to see him for how God sees him. And that opened the window for a lot of forgiveness on my part. And our story completely changed when I started to treat him lovingly.
Right.
yes,
So
treating him lovingly. Yes, please.
that's one of the things that I want to really incorporate is how to love like Christ.
Mm.
One of our priests for Lent this year did a 4-week class, and it was a very short talk on those 4 weeks, right? 15 minutes, and then we had discussion time. But he just wanted us moms to understand what love was,
Mm.
and that love comes from God. And I'm not going to be able to say it the way he did, but what I got from it is that we have to love ourselves,
Mhm.
which, of course, when we're struggling, a lot of times we don't. We have a lot of negative talk we have about ourselves. I'm still recovering from that and probably will for the rest of my life. But God's up here and we want him to flow through us.
Mm.
And that starts with us loving ourselves and knowing that God loves us, knowing that we're that beloved daughter or son of God. And we, by treating our husbands with that love, not excusing their behavior,
Correct.
but treating them with love is part of it. And then I loved your Simon of Cyrene, because that's kind of how I feel. I want to be that Simon of Cyrene where I can't tell you whether or not your husband's ever going to get clean, sober, or whatever it is that they
Right.
need to get. But I can walk that walk with you and I can be there as a shoulder to cry on, as someone to talk to, as someone that can support you through that. My husband is not drinking right now, so that's a good thing, but he still struggles. I don't know what the outcome's going to be. And there's been plenty of times I've been in the confessional and these good priests will just tell me, it's not your time. It's in God's time. It will happen when it's in God's time. And me and God have had some talks about this because I
Yeah.
struggle with it. Man, I get it. I get the whole it's God's time and I understand it, but I struggle with accepting it at times. There's days
I-
I accept it great, and there's days where I'm just like, really, I can't do this anymore.
For sure. And that kind of touches on, we just did a podcast on suffering, our Mother Mary, Mother of Sorrows. And sometimes we don't want to suffer. We don't want to carry our cross. There's times that it gets so frustrating and it's very easy. And I definitely find if I don't stay up in my walk with God, when I backslide, it's just
Mhm.
so easy to again, go back to the catastrophizing. This is never going to get better. Like this doomsday story. And that's not, our God doesn't want a doomsday story, whether anybody gets sober or not.
Right.
Yeah. And that's why the Catholic mindset coaching, it's not just Catholic coaching, right? Like
Right.
we've had that conversation of like, what is mindset? mindset is, what are our thoughts? And St. Paul talks about, like, we have to capture every single thought and bring it under the obedience, the authority of Christ. We have to put on the mind of Christ. What does Christ think? How does Christ think? How does Christ see this? He's not afraid. He's not afraid. He's willing to go into the depths of the pain.
Mm-hmm.
And you have pain as one spouse, and your beloved has pain as another spouse.
Mm-hmm.
Again, St. Paul says, in my weakness, your power is made perfect. But we are told by this world that we either have to hide that weakness, right? Like you said, save face. And as a child of an alcoholic mother, I was taught very well of an alcoholic family dynamic that, excuse the expression, all hell could be breaking loose in our family. But you walk out that door, you better put your gloves on and put your heels on and smile, and life is good. And as a sanguine, I did that really well.
Mhm.
And yet, now as I look back, I can see I dealt with depression for 30 years, and I can see part of that was that generational behavioral, like, while I didn't have an addiction per se, I had some of the remnants, if you will. I don't know how to
Right,
explain
right.
that,
Well, I
right?
Well,
think
something they would normally call codependent or whatever, which is this book study I want to do is kind of a little different than that, but we'll talk about that later. But I mean, we're all affected. My kids were affected. I'm affected. My husband's affected. So from forward, right? So now I'm starting to heal from that. How can we change that so that we all start to heal and we don't continue that cycle down the road?
I love that you bring that up because I know that my kids, I mean, alcoholism's all around my life and thus their lives. And I think one of the other hard things is once you step towards healing, battling the guilt, there's some things my children are going to have to work through
Mm-hmm.
that I was part of the problem.
Right.
And I think sometimes that is something I have to work on, like not beating up on myself, like you said, not getting into that negative mindset and think you're not worthy of God's love and things like this. And it's just that hardest parts for me is accepting that I had a part in the story that my
Mm-hmm.
children will have to recover themselves from. They will have to heal from,
Right.
and it's their walk. And that's kind of a hard mother wound, I think. And I find it difficult. I can't expect comfort from them. And even if forgiveness comes down the road, they may not ever be able to verbalize that to me, and
Mm-hmm.
yet I have to be okay with that.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. It's hard to be in that situation. And I understand it. It's definitely, we make mistakes. I mean, and having a large, I've got a 30-year-old and a 16-year-old.
Yeah, I have a 33-year-old and a 15-year-old. I have 8 as well.
So
And some extras in there, extra kids in there as well.
like the first four would probably describe our family life way different than the last four.
Absolutely.
And there's still trauma that they're experiencing from the different ways that I dealt with it.
Yes.
Like I would kick him out of the house for many, many years. Then I stopped kicking him out of the house after a certain situation happened and I'd left the house. Well, I caused trauma to my children by leaving the house. I wasn't trying to cause trauma.
No.
I was trying to not fight with my husband. And the only way I knew how to not fight with my husband was to physically leave the home. Go park the car somewhere, wait until he was asleep, come home, slither into bed, and wake up and pretend like nothing was wrong the next day.
Yeah,
How unhealthy is that?
super. I've been there, done that. Mhm.
And yet, one of the things that I love, I listen to, I don't follow them per se, but I really do resonate when I see her, is Sister Miriam James,
Mhm.
from SALT, and she works with, what is the podcast that she's on? Abiding Together? I think that's
Abiding
what,
together. Yeah.
and then she also, I went to the Healing the Whole Person with Dr. Bob Schuetz, and she talks about that. But one of the things she said recently that has resonated with me is healing is a journey. And when we don't heal, then the pain is transmitted, not transformed. So you
Mhm.
have a choice. You can either transmit it or you can transform it. And the only way to transform it is bringing it to the
Bring it to
Lord.
the Lord. Yep.
But I love how she talks about, I'm on a healing journey for 20 years. And you look at this nun, right? And you're like, what do you have to heal about? And why are you still healing? And yet that's her humility, right? Like, I'm still healing. I'm still being healed. I'm still
Because we're all
at it.
humans.
That's right. I still need Jesus and we're still walking together. And it is, I've seen her twice. She was interviewed by Chris Stefanik and also who was, I think it was Father Mike Schmitz. And both, she said something so profound. And the reaction of them was like, ugh, mic drop, right? But she's just so vulnerable in the fact that I need Jesus and I'm wounded and I'm hurt and only his love is the answer. And I'm gonna get hurt again. And
Mhm.
I'm gonna need
Michelle,
healing again.
if you could say like one thing to maybe there's a sister out there that was in the midst of active addiction and is in that space where she's leaving or he's leaving, that where you got to slither back into bed, what is something you would like them to hear?
Oh, that's a good question.
I know it's a tough question. I
That's a
guess I'm
tough
asking it because I
question.
want help with the answer.
I go back to the one day at a time
Yeah,
because it really, I mean, that is something that really stuck with me from
same.
Al-Anon. Like one day at a time. I mean, sometimes it's one moment at a time.
Yes.
You know, it's something we're going through right now,
Hmm.
but in 24 hours from now, all these other things are going to be different. 3 days from now, all these things are going to be different, and how we feel about them or whatever. And journaling and having that support group, whether it's a coaching, whatever, but you have to find those people. And that's what's hard for wives of addicts, because I mean, I remember one of the first people I ever told, like, she was like, "Woo, stay away, stay away." And
Right.
like, my kid can't hang out with your kid anymore. I'm like, wait,
Yes.
he's not like behaving in a bad way, but he's
Right.
struggling with addiction. It doesn't mean that your kid's going to come
Anybody's in
over and
danger. Hmm.
right, right. And I haven't ever experienced that, like where a kid was over and there was any no, my husband would just probably be on the couch a little bit tipsy.
Hmm.
And of course, when there was people over, he always behaved way better. He's
Right.
not going to let anybody know that he hasn't,
Yes.
the anger comes out when it was just us.
Well, for me
Um,
personally, I a lot of times would justify it that it was between me and him. I would make the situation quote okay because the fight would be between he and I.
right.
But your children are affected by that.
They're totally affected by it. Correct.
But it's
Yes.
easy in the midst of addiction when you're not on a healing walk, when you don't, it's addiction's so insidious. It just sucks you in and you it's like you're at the bottom of a well and you can't see your way out. And looking back now from what I know now, having the tools I have now, having my mindset coach, having my prayer life more active, I mean, all of that made a huge turnaround. It wasn't coincidence. It's not like one day it got better. One
No,
day.
it's
Mhm,
little steps, things that
mhm,
we do. I mean, my prayer life has been really strong for a long period of time now,
mhm.
but for a long period of time it wasn't. And then once I made that strong, then it was the next step to the next thing, to the next thing, to the next thing.
Well, as a mother of many, it's easy to get lost in the trenches. I mean, you're just in survival mode.
Great. Yeah, there is that too.
So if you're out there and you are in survival mode, Mama Jane and I go back to like minutes. If it's minutes of just, I surrender all, Jesus, only through you, till you can find
And
your support
remembering to
group.
stop and to have those prayers at that time.
So true.
Those can be
Yeah.
so hard to remember. What am I going to do? Am I in that situation to remind myself to stop and pray?
That's a
Mhm.
great point. Yes, because I didn't stop. I was actually thinking of the next way to sucker punch or beg. Or
Right.
I do know that Al-Anon has a pamphlet called "The Merry-Go-Round of Alcoholism," and when I first read that, I was like, "Awesome! I've done all of these. Everything in this pamphlet, I've actually participated in. Awesome!" And I say that's satire, that's sarcasm.
Right.
It's not awesome, but it was eye opening. But it was eye opening, and makes you feel like you're not alone. I know there's also a program, Catholics in Recovery. I don't.
Mhm.
I know
There's
there's
Catholics. That's where my
there.
husband's been going.
Nice.
Yeah. He's really
Yeah.
enjoyed that.
And another perspective that helped me a lot is I was so self-absorbed that never once did I think how hard it was for my husband to stay sober.
Mhm.
Like for him, it really was minute to
It's
minute.
hard. Yeah.
I mean, he's in construction. A lot of the guys drink at lunch. That's an accepted thing in that field.
Oh, wow.
And I mean, they don't get drunk, but they have a drink. I mean, mind blown. I was like, this is allowed,
Like, this doesn't
and
make sense.
it doesn't. And so for him to stay strong and steady and choose to go to the park or come home or do something different is, for a long time, I didn't understand like that. That's kind of like I tell myself I'm going to go walk every day, and then I work a couple nights, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't do it. You know, but if I was an alcoholic, people would be like, gosh, you big loser. Why didn't you walk? Like, how hard is it? Just get out there and start stepping.
Right. So let's
Sometimes it's
acknowledge
that
it's a
hard.
disease. I
Yes.
had cancer, and I mean, he took care of
Yes.
me really well, right? Like,
Yes.
because I was really sick for a year.
Mhm.
And he has a disease of alcoholism or addiction.
Yes.
And addiction nowadays, as your previous podcast would be about, it encompasses more than just alcohol and drugs,
Yes.
but it affects the people that love them the same way.
That's what's hard about it is
Yeah.
that cancer cancer does too, but any disease really does affect the whole family, but unfortunately, alcoholism or addiction or negative addictions have a social impact.
They have
Like
a
you said,
social
your
impact,
friend.
but it's the way that we look at it. So there is a book.
Right.
Let's go on to that. There is a book called Prodependency.
Okay.
And I'm going to be doing a book study starting in June. It's going to be, I think, 8 weeks because there's 8 chapters. There's one chapter that's 30 something pages, but they're mostly 15 pages.
Okay.
And that's me not having the book in front of me. I've been listening to the audio. The book's actually at home. I'm visiting my daughter. She just had one of our grandbabies.
Yay.
But he comes from it differently. Like he talks about how, like if a wife of if a person, a codependent, they call them codependents. Like, so they go to therapy and we're treated like, what's wrong with you because you're doing these things wrong, right? And they don't treat us with love. And what are we looking for when we go to get help? We don't want to be told we're doing something wrong. We want to be acknowledged how hard it is and how we struggle and how it's just really difficult. And I like where he comes from with all of that because it's very true. Doesn't mean that we don't have issues we need to deal with, but let's first acknowledge that we're in pain,
Yeah.
that we hurt,
Mm-hmm.
that this isn't it's not easy, especially for those of us that choose to stay. There's so many people that run, and I've thought about that, meaning and that can happen. That could have happened last month for all I remember, but
Right.
and that's in a moment. I'm not saying I did anything, but it gets frustrating sometimes. But I keep choosing, and it's my choice. I choose to stay because I believe in my vows.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it did
Yeah.
say somewhere in sickness and health, and it is a sickness.
Yes.
And it's
Yeah.
not an easy sickness that we get to go through. But there's times where I've had kids think that we shouldn't be together, but we've gotten further along, and I think they don't feel that way anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's all in that one moment or those moments when we're in that pain that we think that's the solution. But who wants us to believe those things?
Yeah.
That's right.
And being vigilant, that's the key, I think, is that being vigilant on what our thoughts are and where the thoughts are leading us to, right? So the thought of, I'm out of here, I'm done with this, I can't do it anymore. And then being reinforced by society or, oh, mom, you should just leave or whatever. But because of your Catholic coaching, because of your mindset work, like I understand when I indulge in that thought, where it would lead me and what the temptation is.
Mm-hmm.
And I refuse. You've strengthened your will. Like I'm choosing to stay. And when you say I'm choosing to stay, that cuts off all those other options.
Right.
Burning that boat. And it ticks the enemy off because he's like, okay, well, we didn't get in that way. Let's try her this
Find
way.
another way.
And then we get into another kind of a thought process of, well, whatever the thought is, which is why Catholic coaching is so important. This mindset work of what are we thinking about and what are we thinking about our thinking and what are we making it mean?
Mm-hmm.
Whose
What are we
voice
making it mean? Right.
What are we making it mean? Like you said, Vicky, is when you shifted your perspective and realized like, yeah, this is hard for me, but I never considered how hard it is for him. That shifted the whole relationship. And what a beautiful thought. Like, this is hard for me and it's harder for him. Wow. That's so powerful. And sometimes the beauty of Catholic coaching is that sometimes it's just that one thought that we shift somehow, some way, and all of a sudden the knots
they start unraveling.
they unravel, or it just gives you relief, right?
Mm-hmm.
And another aspect, and I'm sure this is something you're so good at anyway, is acknowledging the emotion and feeling the emotion, not running away from the emotion, not buffering the emotion. And right?
Well,
Well,
I mean, I've shared before on our podcast. It was a revelation to me the day I heard you don't have to act on every emotion. I was like, duh, why do we have them? Of course we have to act on them. I mean, I thought about all the people in all the years of my life that they had to deal with me running with every emotion. I apologize publicly. I mean, I just,
step 4.
yeah, right? Whether it was happy or sad. I mean, I could be just as elated and we could all jump up and down and have an ecstatic day. But boy, if I was not on the good train, if it was a bad train, it was a train wreck for everyone. And that's not fair. So
No.
I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for coaching. I'm grateful for a sisterhood of women that, Michele, I hope the ladies that hear us reach out to you, reach out to your podcast, look into your book study, because it's just so important. Again, I felt like it was such a lonely walk. Like, you have to save face, and the comments you get when you choose to stay.
Yeah. And we're doing the right thing. We're doing
Yeah.
what we're called to do.
Yes.
Yeah.
But that's what the devil does, attacks the
he
good.
attacks, right? And you let your emotions out. I shoved them down.
Mm.
My children dealt with a mother who didn't have emotions because she couldn't. I mean, they came out on occasion when I
Right.
couldn't keep them in.
Right.
But most of the time they were suppressed because I didn't want anybody to know what I was really feeling. And I didn't know how to feel it because it was not fun. So,
Right.
And that was freeing to understand that what emotions last for however many seconds they
90,
last for,
90.
and that wait, there's a reason for them. We're supposed to feel them. That was all so freeing. It doesn't mean that I've got it figured out on how to deal with all my emotions still, because
Amen.
that's still a progress.
It is
a thing for me to learn, right? Because I'm still learning. I spent 30 years not dealing with those emotions, maybe a little less, but for lack of not knowing those many years, I didn't ignore them.
When Mama Jane first told me that emotions last 90 seconds, there have been time, I'm not going to lie, I put my stopwatch on. I'm like, okay, this is 90 seconds. Just don't do anything. Just don't do anything. Just
that, and I have done the same thing. That's how I remembered it. Was like, wait, emotions are only 90 seconds? I can handle 90 seconds.
90 seconds, right?
90 seconds. And
it does require us not to think about the thing that's making us upset.
Yes. Well, or even just willing to feel that emotion. And I think that's half the battle.
Part of it, yeah.
And for me, I know when it wasn't addiction, but it was big, huge traumatic events, that simply just holding my heart and saying, I'm safe. I'm safe right now. That has helped me in numerous ways when my emotions get too big and too traumatic, and
sanguines, we got a lot of emotion.
Yes. And well, melancholics have lots of emotions too, but like she said,
everybody does. You're right. But we're just
we just shove them down. No,
you shove them down and we express them. We go over the top, right? And since we're expressing them, then you don't have to express them and you just keep them. But that's the thing I really focused on, was I'm safe at this moment. I'm safe at this moment.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a really good sentence. And just, again, feeling, who actually also reinforced and reminded me about that was Dr. Karen with her Forgiveness is for You podcast. When she coaches, she really gets into the body and reminds you to touch your body, because sometimes that's part of it, is we kind of have this outward body experience. We're not in touch with our emotions, so we're not in touch with our body. And just holding on to ourselves. I'm having a memory of being coached by her and she having me hold my hands on my thighs and really focusing on my feet on the floor. And that was just a moment, and the emotions were able to settle and almost dissipate. They weren't as intense because I was back in my body. So those are powerful work. So real quickly, we could go on and on. This is fantastic. I hope to
talk to you again, Michele. I would love to have you back on, because we're just scraping the surface.
I would love it.
Thanks.
This has been a great conversation.
Yes. How can people get in touch with you? We'd love to have some sort of link in the show notes.
My website's stmonicasway.com.
Okay.
Okay.
St. Monica's Way.
Spelled
It's
out
ST.
Saint.
Oh, it's spelled
Saint.
out. Okay.
Yeah.
St. Monica's Way.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else you want to share with our listeners about walking with a spouse with addiction?
Just that you're not alone. And if you want support, reach out to me.
Yes. Mamas, if you're hearing this, please reach out. Reach out to myself, Michelle, Mama Jane. Just don't walk this walk alone. We're here and it does get better.
Yes, it does.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And you're not alone.
And thank you for your faithfulness. I really want to acknowledge that you've been faithful, you've been steadfast, you've walked this walk, like you said, you've chosen for 30 years. That is an incredible testimony, incredible testimony. And while you may look at the fruit and say it hasn't been that great, or there have been some sort of rotten fruit because of whatever, the Lord is going to show you the glory in heaven of all of the goodness that you've done and that He's been with you and the healing. So praise the Lord. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Well, God
right,
bless
ladies.
you.
God
Thank you
bless.
so much. We hope you enjoyed this podcast. Go ahead and subscribe and share it to your best friends. And it would really help us if you wrote a review. Tell us how we're doing. We want to hear from you.
And come on over to our Facebook page at Cycles in Sanctity and join our conversation. That's where we can talk every day and make this podcast into what you want to hear.
See you next week, Divas.